The other general guideline I would say is the question I get most commonly is how do you know it's done? And in a oven setting world, everyone knew it. And it was when the pig falls from the spit.
It's done when it's done.
Yes. So like even in Comedy of Errors, when two twins are confused for each other by their wives and their entire families, and it's this horrific, confusing thing. And the women are calling their husbands back, but they're not their husbands because of their twin brother. One thing that the women are not confused about is that it's dinner time because the pig falls from the spit. That's what she tells him. The pig is falling from the spit. Yeah. It's time. It is time to eat. Come home. And he's like, I don't know you. It's really funny. But so when the pig falls from the spit, and so practically what that means is literally, I have a pretty rudimentary spit setup. My cross is pretty dialed. It's nice, my roasting cross. But it's just, a steel bar with holes drilled in it. And I put it through the mouth of the pig and through the hole in the pelvis. And then I tie where the anus goes, when you're eviscerating a pig, the canal, sometimes known. And then you tie up the legs so they're tucked in so the pig is aerodynamic, like the flying pig from The Simpsons. Mm-hmm. When they did a backyard barbecue and spit roasted the pig, and Homer chased it down the aqueduct as it was flying because it got launched somehow, and he's shouting, "It's still good, it's still good," because it goes in the water and through dumpsters and stuff. But you tie up the legs so it's aerodynamic, and then you run skewers through pig, through the holes in the spit, and then through the other side of the pig, several of them. And that is what ensures that the pig spins with the spit.
Right.
Utterly essential. And for pigs...
So pins kind of perpendicular to that main spit.
That's right. They're going through the holes in the spit. Yeah. It's not enough for them just to kind of be wedged up against it. They have to be going through holes drilled in the bar. Mm-hmm. I distracted myself. Oh, yes. So literally with that setup, I know I'm getting done when I go to turn it to its next... And I turn it by quarters, if you know what I mean.
There's 4 little cross bars on one end of the spit so he can kind of notch and hold it.
Yeah, I can turn it by quarters each time of its rotation. And when I do that, just turning it a quarter... the whole carcass jiggles and I think it's going to fall off into the dirt.
That's right.
That's how you know when it's done. Uh-huh. So the other things that you'll see if it's done is bone. Uh-huh. So the meat is falling off the bone, right? That's when the collagen has been significantly broken down into gelatin. So it no longer has its chewiness and its strength to hold flesh to bone. It is melted.
Yeah.
And when you can start to see shoulder blade, you can start to see pelvis especially. Mm-hmm. You want to see those things. You want to see that meat peeling back because it's shrinking as it's cooking and see exposed bone. Mm-hmm. That's that's how you know it's done, when it's about to fall off. And that's why it's tricky to have a deadline, because you're working towards that solidly for 8 hours to make sure you get there by 4:30 or whatever, to account for the hour rest and then the 40 minutes it's going to take you to pull all the meat off the bone. Don't underestimate how long it takes to pull the meat off the bone. No. Wear thermal gloves, because even after an hour rest, it will be burning your fingers. And then, putting it in wide hotel pans. And I still do one last drizzle of salt on that meat that's pulled off. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the lambs, I like to anoint them with a pot of water. It's a brine. Salmuera means brine. And it is water with salt. I don't know how much, a handful or something. And then a whole clove of garlic, or, bulb. Just cut it all the way across the cloves and throw it in there. And we like to use a rosemary branch as a brush. And you dip that in there and paint it on whenever you feel like it. Mm-hmm. And you're salting. And so one way that I measure the salt is I look at the sheep and I think, if I were going to salt this entire creature by hand right now, so this perfectly salted, how much salt would I use? By the handful.
Right. Yeah.
That's how much salt goes into your brine.
That makes sense.
So those things, avoid the deadline. Don't use thermometers. It's done bone when it's about to fall off the spit, or you can see bone. Mm-hmm. And the recipe is low and slow. Don't brown it early. Let the browning happen accidentally, incidentally, as a result of you cooking all the way down into the bone and making that meat pullable.
Yeah.
So if I had to say, my ideal roast, perfect roast, quivering in harmony with the music of the spheres, is not a rare one. Even though rare has its place in the universe, it is pullable all the way down to the bone. And even the lean, tender muscles, like the loins, they're encased in many sheaths of collagen and fat when they're being roasted on the carcass. So they're not going to be dry, like a chop would be if you overcooked it. It's because the fibers have been cut perpendicular to the direction that they run, and all their water quickly runs out into the pan as you're frying it, but it's intact in the whole carcass, so it's not going to dry out. Don't worry about drying it out.
Yeah.
On a young lamb and a young goat, you'll get that rib meat in between the ribs that's real thin. That'll get crispy and dry. That's just kind of part of, and that stuff is delicious. Don't poo-poo it.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that. But I would say those are
The principles, the way you approach.